When a narcissist finally realizes you won't bend anymore, they don't walk away, they shapeshift. The moment your center steadies and your eyes stop begging for their version of reality, a last, exquisite manipulation unfurls like smoke. It doesn't look like cruelty. It looks like concern. It doesn't sound like control. It sounds like mourning who you used to be. This is not love's return. It is the mask of terror, the psyche's final bid to pull you back into orbit before you become utterly free. Jung warned that when the persona is mistaken for the whole, the psyche becomes a shrine to a statue. The narcissist does not merely wear a mask, they worship it. Their world is a cathedral of reflections, polished, rehearsed, and precariously upheld by other people's eyes. You were chosen not for companionship, but for your reflective clarity. You were the consecrated mirror, the keeper of their borrowed light. At first, your devotion seemed holy. Admiration became oxygen, your silence, scaffolding. They projected what they could not hold, envy, fragility, rage, into your open body, and you carried it like a penitent carrying a city's sins. The intensity was narcotic, closeness that felt like destiny, purpose that felt like rescue. You mistook occupation for intimacy, but the soul does not collude indefinitely. What Jung called individuation, the irrepressible movement toward wholeness, began in you like a quiet tide. A new and ancient authority entered your chest. You set one small boundary and then another. You told one forbidden truth and then another. Each candle you lit in your inner temple threw their hidden fractures into view. You ceased to be a mirror and started to be a sun. In the narcissist's cosmology, this is sacrilege. Your healing registers as revolt. To a healthy ego, a boundary stings. To an inflated one, it is annihilation. The mirror doesn't crack, it detonates. And with it, their illusion of omnipotence unravels, strand by trembling strand. What you perceive as distance, they experience as death. This is where the psyche's cold machinery engages. Terror becomes story. To preserve the brittle sculpture of self, they invert the narrative. Your sovereignty is cruelty, your clarity is arrogance, your boundaries are a campaign of harm. They crown themselves the wounded party and cast you as the ungrateful heretic. It is not simply manipulation, it is survival inside a collapsing theater. Jung spoke of the shadow as everything the ego cannot bear to know. Your integrated light becomes a black light in their sanctuary, revealing stains they vowed never to see. Your very presence, a quiet, non-compliant center, forces proximity with their emptiness. Rage follows, but not the hot, honest kind. This is calculated and surgical, violence in silk gloves. Here is the hinge. If you accept their revision of reality, you will abandon your throne to sit again in the pews of their church. If you refuse, the campaign escalates. They will not strike your old wounds. They train those too well. They will reach for your gold. They will shame your courage, pathologize your voice, mourn the loss of the warm you, and call your boundaries walls. The message is simple. Your growth hurts people. Hear me clearly. The accusation is a confession. It is the cry of a shadow terrified of sunlight. Your expansion exposes the economy of their world. It runs on your self-abandonment, so you must choose. You can re-enter the cathedral and polish the statue, or you can step into the open air and let the wind tell you who you are. Individuation is not a war against another. It is a vow to the self, and vows reorganize reality. In the next movement, we'll step into the narcissist's first counterstrike, an almost tender weapon designed to make you apologize for becoming whole. Stay with me. Understanding this subtle maneuver will preserve years of hard-won healing from a single engineered doubt. They won't go for your old wounds. Those are scarred. They reach for what's new, bright, and still tender from the forge. Jung taught that what we reject in ourselves, we project onto others. Watch closely. They lift the qualities they cannot bear to cultivate, clarity, boundaries, self-trust, and paint them onto you as flaws. Your voice becomes harsh. Your discernment becomes paranoia. Your sovereignty becomes selfishness. They call it concern. It's cartography. They're mapping where your light is strongest so they can dim it. The lines are eerily consistent across stories. You stop apologizing for needs. They sigh. You used to be so kind. Now you're cold. You speak plainly. They wince. Success has made you arrogant. You rest instead of rescuing. They lament. You push people away. Each sentence is a carefully weighted key, cut from memories you once shared in trust. They remember the night you confessed your fear of becoming hard. They remember that childhood vow never to be like them. They aim there, at the place your conscience and conditioning still negotiate, to trigger a regression into your former role, pleasing, pliant, porous. Understand the alchemy at play. Shame is the solvent that dissolves gold back into lead. If they concede the thought that your boundary harms people, you will dismantle it yourself to stay good. This is the inversion assault. They flip the moral polarity of your growth. It feels like an ethical emergency. Am I abandoning my values? Number. You are implementing them with precision. To disarm the tactic, you need differentiated perception, seeing with two eyes at once. One eye on content, one eye on pattern. Content, the specific critique. Pattern, the timing, always after you set a limit. The tone, sadness dressed as virtue. The outcome they seek, your compliance. When content seems arguable, pattern is irrefutable. Name it inside yourself. This is strength shaming. Naming breaks trance. Then anchor in three truths. My warmth and my wall are not opposites. Love without edges is not love, it is leakage. Disappointing someone is not harming them. Adults survive, no. A boundary that only works when applauded is not a boundary, it's a performance. You can test the field with a calibration phrase, I hear you, and I'm keeping this boundary. If their concern curdles into contempt, the mask just diagnosed the motive. Concern seeks understanding. Control seeks reversal. Expect the nostalgia play next, a soft focus montage of better times, which were better only because you were smaller. They'll reach for old playlists, inside jokes, pictures of the two of you at your most fused. This is not memory, it's bait. Jung called complexes splinter psyches. The nostalgia complex is a time machine trying to abduct your present self. Hold the rope of who you are now. Practical compass. Translate accusations back into values. You're harsh. I value clarity. You're distant. I stopped overfunctioning. Measure by inner weather. After setting the limit, do you feel cleaner, quieter, truer? That somatic click is your self voting yes. Keep language lean. Explanations are oxygen for debates you did not consent to. This works for me. I'm not available for that. And when doubt arrives at 2 a.m., as it will, place a hand on your chest and ask, if a child I love acted as I did today, would I be proud? This relocates morality from their gaze to your soul. Here is the secret they hope you forget. You did not become strong to stop loving. You became strong so love could finally be clean. The inversion assault fails the moment you refuse to make your integrity the villain. In the next part, we'll expose the siren of selective memory, the nostalgic manipulation that tries to sell you your old cage as a lost paradise. Stay. The past will knock. I'll show you how to answer without letting it in. When shaming your strength fails, the narcissist changes tactics. If they cannot make you feel guilty for your present, they will try to seduce you with your past. This is not remembrance, it is resurrection. They attempt to conjure the ghost of the self who served them best, the version of you who was pliant, apologetic, and endlessly available. They do not miss you. They miss the cage you once agreed to live in. Listen to the phrases. Remember how happy we used to be? Life was so simple back then. I miss the old you. These words sound like affection, but function as incantations. They are designed to bypass your sovereign mind and activate an older identity, the compliant self you have been painstakingly shedding. Jung described complexes as splinter psyches, little clusters of memory and emotion that live in the unconscious like sleeping programs. The narcissist knows which buttons to press, which song lyric, which photograph, which joke can awaken that dormant program. They are not reminiscing, they are hacking. Notice what is missing from their nostalgia. They never recall the exhaustion in your bones, the nights you wept alone, the way you bent your spine into impossible shapes just to keep the peace. They edit history into a montage of smiles and laughter, cutting out the hidden costs. The good old days they sell you were good only for them, because you were smaller, quieter, more useful. This manipulation works because the journey of healing is hard. Growth is not glamorous. It is lonely, gritty, and often full of doubt. In those fragile moments, the offer of a simpler past can feel like relief. But this is the narcotic of regression, the temptation to trade sovereignty for a counterfeit comfort. Here is the truth: nostalgia is not memory, it is longing wrapped in illusion. When you look back with unflinching eyes, you see the full spectrum: the smiles, yes, but also the shame, the hunger, the nights you abandoned yourself. True remembrance honors both. Nostalgic manipulation erases half the picture, so you'll walk backward willingly. To resist this siren song, anchor yourself in the felt sense of who you were then versus who you are now. Ask your body, did I feel free then? Did I feel authentic? Did I trust my own voice? The body remembers what nostalgia edits out. Practice phrases that tether you to the present. I'm grateful for what we shared, but I don't want to go back. That version of me no longer exists. I live here, not there. Do not be surprised if the tone shifts when nostalgia fails. Tender reminiscence curdles into panic. The smile fades. The script changes. If they cannot shame your present or seduce you with the past, they are left with only one card, the most dangerous of all. They must manufacture a crisis so urgent, so overwhelming, that it hijacks your compassion and pulls you back into their orbit. In the next part, we'll step into this last gambit, the crisis they engineer to make you abandon yourself. It is the dirtiest trick in their arsenal, the one that targets not your wounds, but your deepest humanity. Stay with me. It is here that your sovereignty is tested most fiercely. When shame cannot undo you, and nostalgia cannot seduce you, the narcissist turns to their most desperate maneuver. They will create chaos, not by accident, but with surgical precision. Jung observed that the psyche will do anything to avoid confronting its own abyss, even invent elaborate dramas to keep truth at bay. For the narcissist, this becomes a performance of calamity, a crisis so urgent that you feel morally compelled to abandon yourself in order to save them. This is not coincidence, it is orchestration. The timing is the tell. Just as you begin to find peace, when your spine straightens and life whispers possibility again, the phone rings. A sudden illness, a financial collapse, a betrayal by the world so cruel it could almost be mythic. And somehow, you alone are cast as the necessary savior. They know your pressure points because you once entrusted them. If you grew up nursing a sick parent, expect the medical martyr. Vague, inexplicable symptoms that baffle doctors, accompanied by tragic sighs and brave faces. If you carry old scars of poverty, they'll present as the financial victim, ruined by betrayal, punished for being too trusting, standing on the brink of ruin. If your sacred value is loyalty, they will play the social pariah, unjustly exiled, misunderstood by all, begging you to defend their name. Each script is tailored to your most tender archetype, not by study, but by years of subtle reconnaissance. Every confession you once made in intimacy was not filed under love, but under leverage. Now, in their desperation, they deploy it. The brilliance of this gambit is that it does not ask for obedience. It asks for compassion. It reframes your sovereignty as cruelty. I know you need space, but you're the only one I can turn to. Or, I know you're focusing on yourself, but could you just help me this one last time? Hear the construction. Your freedom is cast as selfish indulgence, their need as sacred emergency. If you step in, you're not just offering help, you're conceding the battlefield. You're validating the delusion that their chaos outweighs your peace, that their narrative is more real than your hard-won wholeness. You confirm, through action, that their gravity still bends your orbit. But pause. Notice your body in that moment, the adrenaline spike, the guilt storm, the reflexive thought, if I don't help, I'm cruel. This is not intuition. It is conditioning. It is the old neural groove they trained into you, humming like a ghost. Here lies the truth they never want you to see. Their crisis is not your crisis. Their fire was not lit by you, nor can it be extinguished by you. If you throw yourself into the blaze, you will only burn beside them. To meet this trick, you must cultivate what Jung might call the transcendent response, compassion without collapse. To look at their pain and whisper within, I see it, I feel for you. And still, I am not your cure. This is not coldness, it is clarity. It is the reclamation of a sacred truth. Empathy does not require enmeshment, and when you stand in this truth, something shifts. Their performance intensifies, the extinction burst, rage and pleading, tears and venom, all in dizzying succession. This is not proof of your cruelty. It is proof of their loss of power, the dying gasp of an old system collapsing. What you are enduring here is not just manipulation, it is initiation. The psyche is asking you, will you choose the familiar prison of rescue or the frightening, luminous path of self sovereignty? In the next part, we will forge the tool you need to survive this storm: differentiated compassion, a way of loving without surrendering, of caring without chains, the alchemical sword that cuts through both guilt and manipulation while keeping your heart intact. Stay, because this is the turning point, the place where love and freedom finally learn to coexist. The narcissist's manufactured crisis is meant to corner you into a false choice: abandon them and feel monstrous, or abandon yourself and feel good. It is the dirtiest illusion of all, a binary designed to make you believe there is no path that preserves both your integrity and your freedom. Jung called this moment the confrontation with the opposites, the unbearable tension between love and autonomy. But hidden within that tension lies the transcendent function, a third way. This third way is what I call differentiated compassion. It is the alchemical sword you must forge in the fire of their desperation. Differentiated compassion allows you to care deeply without collapsing, to empathize without fusing, to witness suffering without sacrificing your soul on its altar. It is love with edges, empathy with a spine. The narcissist has trained you to equate compassion with rescue. To them, love means self-abandonment. But true compassion, as Jung knew, is not an act of doing. It is a state of being. It does not require self-immolation. It does not demand that you shrink. Compassion is not setting yourself on fire to keep another warm. It is standing as a lighthouse, steady, luminous, guiding, but unmoved by the waves that crash below. Here's how you wield this sword in practice. Separate realities. In the heat of their crisis, silently affirm, this is their reality, not mine. It may be real for them, but it does not have to consume you. This act of psychic separation is the first defense against enmeshment. Redefine compassion. Whisper within, I can feel compassion from a safe distance. This breaks the lie that care must equal sacrifice. You honor your beautiful empathic nature without collapsing into servitude. Anchor in sacred value. Repeat, my peace is not a negotiable currency. This is the heart of sovereignty. Your energy is not a commodity to be spent on someone else's manufactured storm. Your peace is sacred, non-tradable. When you root yourself in these truths, your outward response can be both soft and firm. I'm sorry you're going through this. I truly hope you find the resources you need. Notice the structure. You acknowledge their pain, but you do not claim responsibility for fixing it. This is the voice of the sovereign heart, clear, compassionate, and unbreakable. Prepare yourself. This stance will trigger what psychology calls the extinction burst. When a behavior that once guaranteed reward suddenly fails, it intensifies before it dies. The narcissist's pleas may become theatrical. Tears may turn to rage, rage to guilt, guilt to smearing your name. This storm is not proof you are heartless. It is proof that their control is crumbling. Their desperation is the sound of their spell unraveling. This is the crucible. If you can stand firm without defending, without explaining, without collapsing, you pass through the initiation fire. You become what Jung called individuated, no longer prey to projections, no longer hostage to other people's shadows. You embody the paradox of the sovereign healer, able to love without losing yourself. And here is the hidden gift. The narcissist's final gambit, meant to enslave you again, becomes the exact alchemy that sets you free. Their last weapon reveals your unbreakable center. Their attempt to shatter you becomes the evidence of your wholeness. But what comes after? What remains when you've passed through this storm and the narcissist finally loses their grip on your reality? In the next part, we will uncover the paradoxical gift hidden inside this ordeal, the way their last manipulation becomes the final proof of your freedom, and how your sovereignty ripples far beyond your own life. Stay, because what looks like an ending is actually the first radiant glimpse of a new beginning. When the narcissist's last gambit collapses, something extraordinary happens. You do not merely survive their manipulation, you are transformed by it. What was designed to break you becomes the crucible that completes your initiation. This is the paradox Jung spoke of, that the very forces which threaten to destroy us often carry the hidden key to our individuation. Think of it like this: the narcissist's final act was a test of ontology. Whose reality would prevail, theirs or yours? When you refused to abandon yourself for their chaos, you did more than set a boundary. You declared in action that your reality is sovereign. Their desperate need to control you becomes the irrefutable evidence of your liberation. This realization strikes like lightning. If they must invent a crisis to hold me, it means I am no longer naturally bound to them. Their desperation is not proof of your cruelty, it is proof of your emancipation. From this vantage, you can see the whole architecture of their manipulation for what it was: a labyrinth built on borrowed energy, held together by your compliance. The moment you withdraw that fuel, their edifice begins to crumble. They retreat not because you fought them, but because you stopped playing the role they scripted. You became uncastable in their theater, and here lies the deeper revelation. Your wholeness is not just a private victory. Jung taught that every act of individuation contributes to the collective unconscious. When you break an archetypal pattern, rescuer and victim, controller and controlled, you do not just heal yourself, you subtly shift the pattern in the field of humanity itself. Your refusal to collapse into their crisis is not only self-protection, it is a quiet act of rebellion against millennia of conditioning that has told empaths, healers, and lovers that love must equal sacrifice. By embodying differentiated compassion, you model a new way of being, a love that is fierce, free, and non-negotiable in its authenticity. Do not underestimate this ripple. The people around you feel it. Friends who witness your calm refusal begin to question the places they have abandoned themselves. Family members notice that your no does not close your heart, but clarifies it. Your children, if you have them, absorb a different template of love, one where care does not mean depletion and strength does not mean cruelty. This is how your healing becomes sacred work. You are not just escaping a narcissist, you are birthing a new archetype, the sovereign empath, the integrated healer, the one who can love without chains. This figure is dangerous to unconsciousness, not because it fights, but because it refuses to collude. And unconsciousness cannot survive in the presence of unshakable authenticity. The narcissist cannot bear your integrated light because it reflects back to them everything they have refused to face. Your peace exposes their chaos. Your wholeness mirrors their fragmentation. Your freedom reveals the prison of their illusions. They retreat not in triumph, but in terror, unable to endure what you now embody. And yet, see this clearly, their collapse is not your responsibility, nor is it your victory. It is simply the inevitable outcome of choosing yourself. You do not need them to fail for you to thrive. You only need to remain aligned with the truth of your being. So the gift is this: their last attempt to enslave you becomes the unintentional proof that you are free. What was meant as a trap becomes your certificate of graduation. Their desperation becomes the echo of your sovereignty. But the journey does not end with liberation. Freedom brings its own questions, its own responsibilities. Once the spell is broken and the old battlefield lies behind you, what new ground opens ahead? In the final part, we will explore the life beyond the narcissist, the terrain of sovereignty, the responsibilities of freedom, and how to live as a beacon for others still trapped in the labyrinth. Stay with me, for the ending is not escape but arrival. The storm is over, the manufactured crisis has been withstood, the extinction burst endured, and the last weapon of the narcissist has failed. What remains is silence, the silence of a battlefield emptied, of a stage abandoned by actors whose script no longer holds you. This silence is not emptiness, it is space, it is possibility, it is the sound of your soul reclaiming its own ground. Here you stand, at the threshold Jung called individuation, the place where the false self crumbles and the true self begins to shine. What once defined you, your role as caretaker, mirror, rescuer, is gone. The question is no longer, how do I survive them, but who am I without them? This is the paradox of liberation. Freedom is both a relief and a responsibility. Without the gravitational pull of their drama, you may feel weightless, even disoriented. Years of your life were organized around anticipating their moods, managing their chaos, guarding their illusions. Now, that scaffolding has fallen. And what replaces it is not immediate joy, but a vast, uncharted field. Do not mistake this disorientation for emptiness. It is the fertile void. Jung wrote that in order to individuate, the ego must descend into the unknown and risk losing its old structures. This liminal space is not a punishment, it is the initiation ground. You are not lost, you are uncaged. So what does life beyond the narcissist look like? It begins with subtle shifts. The mornings feel different. You wake without the weight of dread in your chest. Your body, once attuned to hypervigilance, slowly relearns how to breathe. Silence no longer signals danger, but rest. Decisions, once filtered through, will they approve, now echo with a new refrain. Does this honor me? You begin to reclaim the fragments of yourself scattered over years of diminishment. The hobbies you abandoned resurface. The friendships you were shamed out of rekindle. The voice that once whispered in secret now speaks with clarity in public. You feel at times like you are meeting yourself for the first time, and you are. But this freedom is not only personal, it is archetypal. By refusing the old contract, you have broken the lineage of unconscious repetition. In you, the archetype of the bound healer, the eternal mirror, the selfless martyr, loses its hold. Your choice ripples outward, altering the collective unconscious. Others who see you begin to question their own entanglements. Your sovereignty becomes a beacon, a silent invitation. You too can be free. This is what Jung meant when he said that the individuation of one heals the many. Your personal liberation is not just survival, it is service. You have become a carrier of a new myth, that love can coexist with freedom, that compassion can stand with strength, that to be whole is not selfish but sacred. And what of the narcissist? Without your mirror, they are left with themselves. Their fortress of persona begins to crack, their endless projections returning home like exiled ghosts. Whether they confront that shadow or build another illusion is no longer your concern. You have stepped off their stage. Their play continues, but you are no longer in the cast. The final truth is this: the narcissist's last dirty trick was never truly about them. It was about you. It was the final exam of your soul, the sacred initiation that proved you were ready to live as sovereign, whole, and free. What you endured was not in vain. It was the forge that turned your pain into gold. So now, as you walk into the new world, remember, freedom is not the end of the story, it is the beginning. Individuation is not a single act, but a lifelong unfolding. Your task now is to live, not in reaction to them, but in devotion to yourself, to write new myths, to embody a love that does not consume, but illuminates. And if ever you doubt, look back on the storm you survived. Remember the desperation gambit, the inversion assault, the siren of nostalgia. Remember how every trap designed to enslave you became the very proof of your strength. Let that memory be your anchor, your compass, your crown. You are no longer prey to their shadow. You are the alchemist who turned their poison into medicine. You are the sovereign heart, radiant, unshakable, alive. And so the story does not end with them, it begins with you.